Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Google for Education webinar series. This session today is on Google Meets, and so we're going to hear about how we can teach students remotely with video conferencing. I'm Jiminatu Alabisama, and I'm the Managed Service Partnerships Lead here at Google. And then I have Darren Simmons and Katie Wells, who will be our Google certified trainers for today and doing a demo on Meet. We have two very special guests today, Anna Katzen and Simon Fisher, both from Ipswich School, and they'll be talking about their experiences using Meet during this time. We'll go through a little bit of what Google for Education is, just to refresh your memory, a little bit of the demo of Google Meet, and then if you have questions around that, we'll be taking that and the trainers will be able to answer as we go along, and then hear from Ipswich School about their distance learning experience, and then round it off with another Q&A in case there was anybody who tuned in late or want to ask additional questions after hearing from everybody on the panel. So just a refresher, Google for Education is a productivity set. We have our tools, which is G Suite for Education, our devices, which is Google Chromebooks, and then you have Google Classroom, which is the mission control for teachers that bring your class content to life and also help transform teaching and learning at scale. So this can be used for educators and IT and admins to enable all students to learn better together, no matter where you are. So this is perfect for the situation that we're in with COVID-19 to be able to use our tools. We have a few distance learning events coming up, so you can always access our webinars. The past webinars that we've done yesterday and a few weeks ago, and then any upcoming webinars. And then we also have something really special, which is the virtual office hours. So if you have questions as a senior lead or questions as an IT admin, you can sign up to GFE UK webinars and be able to sign up for our virtual office hours. This is a very important piece of information, the Teach from Home Hub. This is where you have all the information around tips, resources, and tools to help teachers during the COVID-19 crisis for school closures. So if you're not sure where to start, our Teach from Home Hub is perfect to learn on how to get started, as well as provide the tools and step-by-step guides on which products to use for which courses and the curriculum that you're trying to teach. And if you need additional help, we have the first day content, which is our teacher center. And that helps you get additional help, have a new directory for our communities, and tiny courses that help you along the way to learn about our products. So if you want to do something around your first day of classroom, you can go to g.co/teacher center, and you'll be able to get all the guided trainings and content there. But last but not least, we also have the 8 short lessons delivered to your inbox. So if you go to teachercenter.withgoogle.com/getting started, you'd be able to set this all up and have all these lessons delivered to your inbox so that you can learn on the go. And that way you can keep up with your professional development, new products, as well as make sure that during this time, this distance learning process is seamless for you and your students. So next up, I'm going to pass it off to our trainers, Katie, and then Darren.
Hey. Okay then. So today, as you know, we're looking at the Google Meet. And hopefully you can see my screen now. Yes. Okay, so we are looking at Google Meet and how we can use it in the classroom. So it's obviously a great video conferencing tool, and you can have some form of interaction with your pupils. So where to find it? So you can obviously find it under the Google waffle, or you can just go to meet.google.com. But you can also create it within Google Classroom to start off with. Okay, so this is by far the easiest way for teachers that are already using Google Classroom. So on your classroom, it's going to tell me some things. So you'd have it set up, and underneath the settings cog, it is now Classroom has fully integrated with Meet. And if you scroll down a little bit, under General, we now have this Meet box. Okay, and this is where we can generate a Meet link. The first time you log on, there's a little button here that says Generate Meet Link. So you can generate one, and then you also get the choice of making it visible to your students or not. Great for if you only want them to be able to go on it at certain times, and you can slide that to be on or not. You can also refresh this Meet link or copy it just by clicking on it. So you can copy the Meet link and put it in other various places, or if you need to, you can reset it. Anyway, so if we slide it to visible and then do our save option, okay, you can see there it is straight away in our header. Okay, and basically to launch it, all I need to do as the teacher is click that, but also all the children need to do is click that, which has been brilliant with my little year 4s. Okay, there's no complications, they just have to come on and press that Meet link. So we can do that, and as you can see, it opens another window and goes straight into that Meet. So by far the easiest place. Now, if you're not using Google Classroom, as I said, the other place that you can create one is through meet.google.com. So here on this home screen, you have two options. You can either join a meeting or start a meeting. We're going to go ahead and we're going to start one. So when you click this, it gives you the option of making a nickname. I've just been giving mine like the nickname Year 4 Geography, and then pressing continue. So after you allow it, first time you do it, you have to allow it permissions to access your microphone and your camera. So after you've allowed the permissions, it launches this sort of pre-room. Here, as you can see, I can see what I'm about to go in looking like. I can check the background. It also enables me to turn off my microphone so I can enter the room silently. And I could also turn my camera off before I go in. It tells me that no one else is here at the moment, which is brilliant. And then you just click join now. Okay. The next thing it then does is this pop-up window. Now this has got all the joining information on. What I can do is copy this joining information and then share that with who I want to come into the meeting. So should that be through Gmail or whatever system you're using, and they get that shareable link there, which they just have to click on to be able to enter our meeting. I can also add people directly here using the add people button. So there's lots and lots of ways, as you can see, to actually get the meeting to people. But let's have a look at the meeting screen. Okay, so this is the meeting screen. At the moment, I'm muted. The next button along is the hang up one, so I won't press that one yet. And we also have the turning off the camera. Again, I can do this if I was in the meeting. And then it just gets my log-on profile picture. Should I need to share the meeting information while I'm in the meeting again, I can just click this button over here and it gives me all again. Okay. The other great thing here is if you've got any attachments that you need for your meeting, you can link them in here. So that's that. And then over here on the right hand side of the screen, I've got two more options. I've got this little people option, which shows me who's in this meeting at the moment. Obviously, mine's only me, but if I was hosting it for my class, I'd have a list here of then all the children that are in the meeting. The good thing about this is you also get the options here. I haven't got anyone to add, but you get the options here that you can silence people and mute people from afar. So should you have that child that's left their microphone on, you can turn it off for them. There is also a remove button, which hopefully you wouldn't need to use very often, but if you did have a child that you needed to remove from a meet, you could do that remotely as well. And then the last feature I've got to tell you about is this chat, which is brilliant for if you are presenting and in a meeting, the children can ask questions as they go along. It's been so useful with the younger children, and they're just able to type in here whatever they need. Oh, I should put help on the end. And then you get a stream of all the children commenting or adding things to the lesson. So that's the basics of Meet. And as I said, I'll hang up. And then I'm going to pass over to Darren, who will add some more features and expand on a little bit more to do with Meet.
Thank you very much, Katie. So we're going to go through some different ways of using Meet. The screen that I've showed you is obviously Google Calendar. So in Google Calendar, you can create a Meet through using Calendar. So if you want to, like, say, schedule your week's worth of teaching that's coming up, you can actually schedule that within Calendar here. So to do that, let's say we're going to have something at 4 o'clock today. So I'm just going to double click on 4 o'clock, give this a title. Let's say this is going to be an English class. And I'm going to go down here, and I've got this little feature now which is called Add Google Meet Video Conferencing. And then it's going to allow me to add this. And obviously, at the moment, I can add 250 people to this Google Meet. These features are available till the end of September as well. So we're going to add here. So it's going to create a link for me. And over here, I could sort of add some guests. So if I did want to invite somebody in particular, I could do those. Also, down here, I can add and create a stream. So a live stream is like what you're looking at right now on this YouTube video. So it isn't an interactive way. It's more about a view only way. So to add the stream, I'm just going to go down to the bottom here and click on add stream. And that's now going to generate this stream code, which I can then share with my students. So effectively, I will go into the Google Meet and I will do my presentation, and the students will be watching it as you currently are, as kind of a live stream. They wouldn't be able to interact with it, but they'd be able to watch that lesson. And you'd also be able to record it as well and then share that lesson with them later on. So that's a really great way if you do want to just have that live stream feature, but without necessarily, you might have issues around students interacting or sort of bullying and things like that. You don't have to share that Meet code with them. You can just share that stream code with them and just get them to be able to do those. Okay, let's create this. I'm going to hit save on here. And that's going to save it straight into my Google Calendar. So when I want to go to this particular meeting, I can click on my calendar and I can then click straight onto this Meet code here, and it's going to open up straight into Google Meet. Also, a new feature which has just been added in the last week is if I'm in Gmail. So if I do use Gmail, I've now got this on the right-hand side, on the left-hand side here. I can actually start a meeting straight away from my Gmail. So I'm thinking I've just read this email from maybe it's one of my colleagues, and I want to have a meeting straight away with them. I can click on here and click start meeting. I can also join a meeting as well. So if I do know a meeting code, I can literally type in the meeting code straight away and then join that particular meeting. So that's a new feature. And Google are adding new features almost every week. There seems to be a new feature. I'm going to show you a new one very shortly. If I go onto my Meet screen now, so here's my Meet screen, and you'll notice because I've scheduled this on my calendar, I can actually see this class coming up. So I'll see any other meetings that are happening today on my list. So I'm going to go into this one at 4 o'clock. So let's click on this one, this English class that's going to start at 4 o'clock. And we're going to go into that backstage area that Katie was showing. So in this point, I can get ready. I can see if anybody else is already in this meeting. Obviously, it's not because it's just me so far. I'm just going to turn off, I can turn off my webcam from here if I don't want to have that on there. I'll turn off my microphone if I'm going to go into a bigger meeting. And I'm going to go join on here. So I'm going to click on join and go into this particular meeting. So when it opens up the meeting, it's going to let me know that I've obviously organized this to be a streamed meeting. So I can click here and say, let's start that stream. I'm just going to turn off my webcam for a second because it's going a bit slow on my screen at the moment. So I've got here and I can start the stream now. But if I don't want to start it straight away, maybe I just need to do some prep beforehand. I'm going to click close and I'll show you how to start that in a moment. Another feature that we can add into Google Meet is turn on captions. Now, this works for an individual user. So if I turn this on now, every time that I start speaking, it's going to turn that into captions for me. And I would say it's probably about 95% accurate. Sometimes it does have some funny things that appear on this particular caption screens. And I know my students have screenshotted some of those and sent them to me. But it will generally kind of get most of my words correctly as I'm talking. It always depends how I enunciate properly, depends on those. Doing pretty well so far. But a student would have to turn this on themselves. So if they wanted to have those captions, it would also caption other students as well. So if you have got conversations between different students, it will also caption that for them as well. So I'm going to turn that off right now. And then down here on my more options, I've got a few more options that I can use on here. Now, because I created, like I said, it was going to be a stream, I can click here and I can actually start my stream right now. So if I'm ready to go, I'm saying, okay, it's 4 o'clock, or I want to start this a bit earlier. I can start my stream, and that stream link that I showed you a moment ago would then become live, and then students would be able to access those and view that particular meeting. Another option that I've got in here is around the recording of this meeting. So if I click on the recording, that's now going to record this meeting, and it always ping up with a notification to let you know that you need to ask for consent and make sure that everyone's aware that you're recording this meeting. Let's say that I've done that and I've accepted those. Now, when someone joins this meeting, it's going to warn them. So they won't get that prompt. When they join it, it'll say this meeting's being recorded. So they'll know that it's being recorded in there. And I'll know because I've heard a little ding in my headphones to say that it is now recording at the top here. And that's now going to be recording this meeting, so I can then share that with my students later on. If I want to stop that anytime, I just click on the 3 dots and hit stop recording. And that's going to stop it and let me know that I want to actually stop that particular recording. And I'll show you where that's saved in a moment. And then down here, I've got my change my layout. So if I want to have a different view, I can click on change layout, and it's going to give me a few different options. So I've got a sidebar view. Now, obviously, it's just me in this meeting, so you're not going to be able to see all the different participants. But a sidebar would be, there'd be a main screen, maybe the main person presenting, and a few of the select last people that talked would be down on the right-hand side of the screen. Spotlight would be it follow the main person that's talking. So whoever's talking at the time, it will then flip to them and their camera would then be live. And then we've got tiled view. Now, tiled view allows you to have up to 16 people on your screen at once. And this is a brand new view. So you might not necessarily see this on your domain just yet. If you've got the rapid release, that's why I've got it on here and I can see that. But if you've got the scheduled release, you'll see it from next week. So by the time we get to the end point next week, you'll have this option to have a tiled view, and it will then have 16 videos on my screen at once. Great if I'm teaching the whole class and I just want to see the whole class. It gives me that option to have that tiled view. The auto option, obviously, will just try and pick the best view for you. So if I just leave it on auto, depending on how many people I've got in my meeting, it's going to try and pick the best view that I need to have in those. So just trying to think if we've got any things in here. So we've done the stream. Like I said, if I wanted to start my stream, I'd click on here and it'll allow me to be able to do that stream. And also Katie mentioned on here, if you wanted to present your screen, you've got some options down here to present your entire screen, a window. And now what they've added, and again, you might not see this version just yet, depending on your domain, you've got a Chrome tab. So this is great if you wanted to show a video, for instance, like I want to show a YouTube video, because it gives you an option. If I click on here, I can see my different tabs that I've got open on this Chrome browser. Let's say I want to show my drive. I've got this option now to share the audio from this tab. So if I did want to show a video to my class, maybe it's a YouTube link, I can then share that particular audio and they'll be able to hear that on their Google Meet. So that's a nice extra little feature that they've now added into here. Okay, so let's just show you where recording would go. Let me just cancel this class now. And if I go to my Google Drive, so if I click on My Drive, I've now got a new folder that's been added onto here, and a lovely kind of screenshot that's been added onto my quick access. I've got this new folder called Meet Recordings. So if I click in here, I've now got this Meet recording that I recorded earlier. If I double click on this, it's then going to show you that video that I recorded earlier on. Looking a bit confused there. And I can now share this with my students. So if I wanted to post this straight into Google Classroom, say, you know, I had a number of students that couldn't make the class, maybe they had bad internet connection, or they just couldn't make it at that point, I can then share the whole video with them, and they can then access and rewatch that video back when they need to. So that's a really nice little extra feature to have and think around when you're going up to those. Okay, so that's everything, sort of the extra features. I'm sure there's lots of range of questions around this, but they're the kind of main functions that we have. And I'll pass you back to Jem to see if we've got any questions.
Perfect. Sure, let's take it back to some of the live questions. Well, someone pointed out how great the grid view is. So yes, we've heard it loud and clear from everyone. And I'm even grateful that it's out there. So Sky, if you could just pull up some of the questions that are coming up. I think we see one. So grid view tool still works a bit better. Is that, yeah, still the best one?
Okay. Yeah, that's a Chrome extension. So if you do want to use that as a Chrome extension, that's available if you want more than 16 videos.
Yes. And then would a video not play and be heard if you shared your screen?
Would a video not play and be heard if you shared your screen?
Yeah, I was starting to answer that one. I think it would, because obviously they can hear you talking. So the sound should also go through as well. So yeah, I think the video, obviously, if you didn't want it to be heard, put it on mute.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
Just gonna, so anything else from the live questions? Let's see. In Wales, all children have Hub accounts and Hub email. Does this Meet tool work with other email accounts or just Gmail?
Yes, it does. It works with any email account. Even if your students or people you're inviting, they don't necessarily have to have a Gmail account to be able to access it. So as long as you've got an email address, you can send them that email. They'll have the Meet link, and then they'll be able to access that particular Meet link, even without a Gmail account or a Google account.
Perfect. Is there any way to make a stream live without using Calendar? Ooh.
Oh, currently, no, I've not come across one. So you have to use Calendar to create that stream link. There's not another way. So even if you've created a Meet, you can't then add a stream to it later on. So you have to set that up in advance using Calendar.
All right. I've actually gotten a question before around if you're working with, if you set up maybe a cadence of Meet links for maybe every week to do office hours, how do you prevent students from getting into those links ahead of time and chatting?
Yeah, so a really great way to do that is by creating nicknamed Meets. So when you're on your Meet screen, I don't know if I can quickly just show you my screen on here, if I just go back to my home screen. So when I'd go to my home screen, I'd go join or start a meeting. If I click on here, it now gives me an option to, if I leave this blank, it's just going to randomly generate something. But if I type in a nickname in here, so let's call this English Q&A or whatever it may be. Oh, I can't use the and. There we go. Q and A. That would be now a nickname meeting. So what will happen is I can then add that particular meeting. It will create it. And once I join and my students join, if I'm the last person to leave, so my students will leave to begin with, when I come back and I'm the last person to leave this particular meeting, it will close down that URL. So you won't be able to go back to that URL, even if you have this code at the top here. A student won't be able to go back in and access that once I've left, but it only works if you've got a nickname meeting.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right, so really quickly, just want to do a reminder of what Google Meet is, right? If you're not sure or you just tuned in now, you can use this for up to 250 people on a call. You can live stream for up to 100,000 viewers within your domain. So this is really good for those large settings, or if you want to do a broadcast across your entire organization. And then also really good to help record the meetings, save them to Google Drive for future use. Next up, we have a distance learning session from Ipswich School. Hi.
Hello, everyone. So I'll start. Hi, my name's Simon Fisher, and I'm the ICT manager at Ipswich School. We're a co-educational independent school in the centre of Ipswich. We consist of 1,078 pupils aged between 3 and 18. We've got a nursery, a lower prep, an upper prep, and a senior school. So we've got lots of people using Google. I'll be covering 4 main areas. So the first area is basically technology. So you have to make sure that everybody has the right tools to deliver remote learning. Not just the tools that IT think they need, it's the tools that they feel comfortable using. You need to make it as easy as possible. So to have the data synchronized, we synchronize a lot of our data from our management information system, which I'll touch on shortly. And we're going to go into the ways we use Meet. They've been covered already, but we use the same methods as already mentioned, and then how essential support is. So the first area is technology. So the majority of our teachers are using 14-inch touchscreen Chromebooks. We've provided styluses to those that want to use Jamboard, and some teachers are using their standard desktop PC, which is fine. The beauty of G Suite is that it's device agnostic, so we've got teachers and pupils using a range of devices. And through feedback, we have learnt that using a second device, like a mobile, to keep on top of the chat is really handy for a lot of teachers. We utilize the chat a lot. You can send links, you can set links to resources, to videos that you want them to look at later. You can send them in the chat box. So a lot of the teachers use their phone or a tablet to use the chat, keep an eye on a chat while they're presenting on their other screen. Moving on to the data synchronization slide. We also have, we basically have all of our information in our management information system called ISAMS. If we could just move to the next slide. Yep. So ISAMS is our management information system. It has all of our teacher timetables, all of our lessons, all of the teaching groups. And we use a product called Salamander Soft, and that basically synchronizes everything into Google. So everybody's timetables are in Google Calendar. It's synchronized every evening, and Google Classroom groups are already synchronized from ISAMS. So if there are any changes to any groups, we make that change in ISAMS. It synchronizes overnight to Google Classroom. If for any reason a teacher is off, or they're absent, or they've got a week off or something, where they're ill or whatever, we can add them as a teacher of that group in ISAMS, and then it synchronizes it to Google Classroom. So everything is already in Google, so it saves teachers a lot of time. They do not have to create classroom groups themselves unless they want to create smaller breakout classes, which we have seen recently. So moving on to the next slide, the way we schedule our meetings is we use the calendar, but because the teachers already have their timetabled lessons in Google Calendar, they can just edit the event, the timetabled lessons there, they edit the event, add conferencing, and then they invite the pupils. So all teaching groups are synchronized to our Active Directory using the Salamander again, and then back up to G Suite. So they're in the directory. So when you search in Gmail, the groups are there, class groups as well as users. And if you invite a group, if you've got view members, there's a group setting called view members of the group. And if you have access to view members of the group, it will expand it so you can see who's a member. So you can double check that all of the people are there for that class group. And then when you save it, you get the option to send them an email, or you can not send the email. It will still go into their calendar. So in the lower years, we do not permit the pupils to create their own meets. We think it's just best that we keep it to the I think it's year 10 and above. So they can only join meets that we have prepared for them. So moving on to the next slide, our prep school. They are new to Google. The teachers aren't, but the pupils only received their Google accounts last week and started remote learning on Monday. But the fact that they have started, I think, is a testament to how great the Google tools are. They use the classroom method of Meet, so they enable Meet via the cog as demoed before. And then each child can go into their class groups and then click on the Meet for that lesson. And they do assemblies via Google Meet. They do form time, and then they do their lesson. And then it's the lesson's introduced, and then work is assigned via Google Classroom. So moving on to the next slide. The support. So we have a video and audio library system called Planet eStream. It's essentially your own video library, so you can import programs that have been on free-to-air TV. You have access to the entire BBC archive, and you can add your own videos. So we create video tutorials, and we have you can have subjects, and we have a subject called video tutorials, and we have tutorials on all of the, I mean, there's lots of great Google tutorials already out there, but we try and do some for our teachers that we've done ourselves and keep it kind of linked to Ipswich School. So we use that quite a lot. And recently we've been using Screencastify, which is a great tool, great extension for Chrome. And the teachers have been using it quite a lot in the prep school, because in our lower prep, they're using Google Sites for their remote learning, because the children are a bit too young to log in with a Google account. So they have a Google site. The teachers create some videos in Screencastify and they share it. And they could do that. It shows how easy it is. I didn't have to give them any training on Screencastify. They just got up and used it, and then it adds it to Drive. IT support has been essential, I would say, on the IT manager, but it's best to provide as many support channels as possible, just to make everybody feel that they can contact you in any way. We have an email ticketing system, we have phone support, and we carry out remote support using Chrome Remote Desktop. So we've been supporting parents. As I said, the prep received their Google accounts last week, so we've been supporting parents, and we've been remoting to their devices if they would like us to. And yeah, it's gone rather well. So that's the support. I've gone very quickly over how we synchronize data, so apologies if I've been too quick, but there's a lot to get through. So I'll move on to the next slide, and I'll let Anna talk.
Hi everybody. So my name's Anna Caston. I don't really need the slide up at the moment. And I think the best thing to do actually is to have a really great ICT team if you want to do this. And Simon has been fantastic and his whole team. So I think we're doing okay because of them at the moment. So I am definitely no expert with Google and Google Meet at all. I've just been using it for obviously the week before our Easter holidays and then this week. And I'm just on a huge steep learning curve, as we all are. But I think the best thing we did was actually, and it sounds like I'm advertising, but I'm not. They are being fantastic. Is going Google a couple of years ago in the school has been an absolute lifesaver through all of this sort of mayhem now, because we're all used to using Google Classroom, and so Google Meet's just obviously something we've become very familiar with very quickly. So my job as head of lower school, I've got two strands to it. One of them is the sort of pastoral care of the pupils in year 7 and year 8 and my tutor team. And the other one is I'm a maths teacher. So I'm just teaching normal lessons. I've been teaching all day today, and I teach maths from year 7 up to 6th form. And when we were having SMT meetings about sort of how we're going to do this, we came to a few decisions which I think have made quite a lot of difference. The first one is to cut out just a few lessons a week. We were really worried about pupils staring at screen for 8 lessons a day. We have 8 40-minute lessons normally. And we thought that was just too long to be looking at a screen and concentrating. You have to be really focused. And I think 8 lessons a day is just too much for a teacher as well. So I think for them and us. So we tried to make sure that no one has a full 8-lesson day anymore. And And obviously they're not having proper games afternoons, so they have a couple of light days. The other thing was we cut the lesson times down from 40 minutes to 35 minutes. And it just that 5 minutes, they have a 5-minute gap to get to classes anyway. So now we've got a 10-minute break between lessons. That makes a huge difference for the pupils, I think, to get up and have a bit of a stretch of their legs and walk around, and for us to close windows down and open windows up and get everything ready for the next lesson. So that's been a big difference. And then the other thing, if you could just show my first slide, was the expectations. We set the expectations of our lessons really early on in a really familiar format. We have these posters up about expectations and lesson time anyway. So I made one for the Google Meet lessons, and I think that made quite a bit of difference. It is sort of so familiar, as I said, same format. And then something, again, as a whole school decision, which we didn't do before Easter and that we are doing now, is that we are continuing with art, music, design, technology, games, even life skills, choir, all of those things that we normally do. We're continuing now in various formats. And I think pupils and parents have really welcomed that. So I want to start talking first really about the teaching and how I do it. So I just wonder if you could show the next slide, which is my classroom, my current classroom. There it goes. That's where I'm sitting now. Quite an uncomfortable chair, but there we go. So the way I've set up it is I've got my Chromebook, which was given through the school, and I don't know if you can see, but I've got an iPad next to it, which I use to keep the chat going, so I can see the chat at the same time as I'm teaching, and that's really useful. And then I've got a visualizer. Now this is a bit old school, but it's really useful. And how I start my lessons every day is I have don't laugh, I've got a mini whiteboard and some old OHP slides, but I show my visualizer, and I have that because lots of the pupils do sort of do come in quite early to the lessons, and I don't necessarily, and I'm still fiddling around getting things ready. So on my mini whiteboard and my visualizer, I just showed them the screen with a sort of maybe my learning objective or a title and a welcome, lovely to see you, isn't it a nice day? Maybe a starter or something they need to prepare. While they're looking at that and writing titles and dates and things in their books, I'm setting up and opening a window, and I have a window open per lesson and tabs along it, so that the new Google Meet thing where you can change between tabs has been a lifesaver for me, because it used to be that you had to change between windows and that was a real pain. So changing between the tabs is great. So I have a window up per lesson, and the tabs I'm going to use, including my lesson plan, mark book, maths websites. I found some fantastic websites that really work well for this kind of teaching. The answers, never get caught without your answers. And I just have a quick check around to make sure, I don't know, my daughter isn't mucking around in the background or my pants aren't on the radiator or something. No child wants to see that. And then, as I said, I switch on to me and say hello. So I can switch cameras. I don't think that's anything that, I don't think Darren or Katie showed that, but the sort of switch cameras is quite good. I can switch between me, the camera on me from my Chromebook and the camera on my visualizer. And that works really well for me. So when I've got all my tabs up and start, obviously I have some kind of starter thing to get them going or to get their sort of maths brains working a bit. And I do lots of using the chat for answers, and the pupils like that. There's a sort of competition element, I think, of quickly getting in the answer on the chat. Another thing, we started off, I don't know if on the Google Expectations poster, we said microphones and cameras off for pupils, and it's up to them. We can turn them on and off for them, but we can turn them off for them, actually. I'm not sure about on. But first of all, we said no mics and cameras on for pupils at all. And as we've been teaching, this is something from experience, we've found out that actually having certainly their cameras on and their microphones on intermittently is so much better. There's something about being able to see your actual pupils on a grid view. So I've got the extension grid view. I hadn't realised that Google had brought one in as well, but obviously I have more than 16 pupils in most classes. So we can, on the extension grid view, you can have as many as you like. And that's been absolutely fantastic to actually see them. And it just makes the teaching a lot easier. I can see when they're working as well. What I'm finding, though, is year 7 and year 8, absolutely dead chuffed to have their cameras on and for us to see them. No problem at all with that. Love to show you their cats and all kinds of stuff. And And then the year 12s also. So my sixth form was absolutely happy to have their cameras on and chat as well. Year 9, 10, and 11 do not want to show themselves at all. I think they're just a little bit more concerned about what their hair looks like. They've all had COVID-19 shaved haircuts and things. So yeah, that's that's not working so well. And if I say turn the cameras on, they go, oh, we haven't got them. I know for a while they have, but they won't turn them on. So other things I've been doing, going through my lesson, I'm not getting as much work done as I would normally. I'm planning for probably, I hate to say it, at the moment, maybe it's early days, about half the amount of work I would get through in a class I'm getting through in a normal lesson. I mean, it's shorter, but it is quite hard to get through all the work. The visualizer is really useful for showing the textbook as well. So I can show the textbook and put an overlay on it, so draw all over it if I want to. And then marking the work is proving I'm trying out lots of different things for marking. So obviously they're doing lots of self-assessment. And for the older pupils, I've found a couple of good apps, or a tiny scanner app. I don't know if anyone's heard about that, where they can photograph their work with their phones and turn it into one PDF document, so a multiple page PDF document, and then upload it into Google Classroom. And then I can annotate that. As a maths teacher, it's much more difficult for me, I think, for maths anyway, to have work done on Google Docs and things because of algebra and graphs. So if they photograph their work and upload it as a PDF, that works much more easily for marking and for them to hand in complicated work. I know other teachers have come up with really brilliant ideas as well on how to go about this. So I was speaking to one of our geography teachers, and they are having a Google Doc that they've uploaded onto Google Classroom, and then they've switched on the can edit and give a copy to all pupils, and so all pupils get the same Google Doc, and they can write on it. And Hannah, the teacher I was talking to, was saying that she can go in and see every single document and in real time as they're typing into it. And that's fantastic. That's fantastic. I've just seen a question there actually about annotating the PDFs. I do it on my iPad. So if they come up on my iPad, I can use my finger or a stylus, and I can annotate there. My Chromebook, I don't think I can do it on my Chromebook yet, but iPad works really well. So other things I want to talk about. Yeah, so today I was a bit worried. I've got a bottom set year 7 class, absolutely gorgeous, with some children with dyslexia in there, and I just wanted to make sure that what I was doing was I was doing my best for them. And so I've asked the Senko and our dyslexia specialist to join in the meet. Now that worked really well, and they just joined in the meet, and they were two little shady figures sitting in the background observing everything. But they gave me some really good tips afterwards, and that's really easy if you want to sort of coach someone or just check into a colleague's lesson and sort of give them some tips. I wanted to make sure that I was being understood, that I was explaining things properly, taking my time, and they gave me some really good feedback. And the one thing they did say was I wasn't leaving enough pauses. And I completely understood what they meant, in that whole sort of, if you're trying to pause while teaching and you can't see anyone and you've got none of that feedback and you've got none of those sort of physical things to have a look for, a pause for about 10 seconds feels like about an hour, and it's really hard work. But they said I was explaining things and then carrying on talking, and the pupils just needed some silence to get on with the work. So that's something I'm definitely going to take on board. So that's the teaching side of things. I don't know if that helps. Please ask questions if you want to. As I said, I'm no expert. I'm just learning on the job. My other side, the pastoral side, is really interesting, actually. And we're trying to carry on things as normally as possible. So we're having registrations every morning, again, with cameras on, so that I think that tutors can sort of check that they're up and dressed and ready to work. We've had sort of bring your pet to tutor time, which has proved very popular. I've seen an alpaca. An alpaca was probably the best pet so far, I think. We've had baking competitions. We're still having chapel pre-recorded by our lovely Rev once a week, so that's been fantastic. We're having assemblies still. We are having a sort of a lower school chat for year 7 and 8 at a lunchtime, where pupils can come along just talk to us or tell us about their worries. And we're having lower school council meetings still. And then we have had lower school discos. We've had lower school discos through the Easter holidays because ours was cancelled at the end of last term. And it basically involved me with a silly hat and a disco ball dancing in my kitchen, being washed and laughed at by my years 7 and 8. But it was good fun. And I sent the Spotify disco list playlist to everybody, and we all danced around in our kitchens. So that was really good fun. Other things that we're doing for welfare for staff, which is obviously really important too, is we've got a welfare group already set up, which has been fantastic. And we're using Google. We've got a Google Classroom for our staff as a welfare group as well. And we're having photo competitions, got a running group. We have a Let's Lunch Together Google Meet where staff can sort of bring a sandwich and sit and have a chat with each other. So that's worked very well. And we're continuing with normal sort of department meetings and tutor meetings as we would normally. One thing I want to talk about is sort of the problems I've had. Not many, to be honest, but sort of normal things like Wi-Fi at home, been an issue, devices, interruptions from family and the doorbell and the cat attacking things in the garden. Getting the year 11s and 13s to buy in. We're still teaching them. They're doing really well, but that was tricky. Differentiation's a bit trickier in the classroom. You can't go and have a quiet word with someone and sort of kneel down next to them and say, come on, let's help you, or give some extension work to someone and not have the others here. So I think the differentiation is something I'm definitely working on. And the SEND issues have thrown up some interesting ones as well. But we've been using, we've a child with hearing issues, and we've realised that we can use captions for her. So a few problems, but not many actually. And I've learned a lot, and I'm still learning new things every day. I think that's it. Has anybody got any questions that I can answer on the comments? Simon, have I missed anything out?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I don't think so. I think are we opening up to Q&A now?
Yeah, we'll open it up to Q&A. Let's bring everybody back in.
I'm answering some questions on YouTube.
Okay. So if you just do one more quick check for the live comments, do we have any new questions? If they've all been answered. Okay, I think they've all been answered. Great job, everyone. I actually so a question for me, just if you could leave any piece of advice for the educators out there, one thing and a words of encouragement during this time, just spill it out. Let us know what you think. Help the educators out there. So we'll start with Katie.
What I've been telling a lot of people at school is don't panic. Like when something, they get an email through that says so-and-so's requested access on something, or like, I think quite a lot of our staff members go into panic mode, like they've done something wrong. And it's like, don't panic. It's okay. Like, it's fine.
That's a good one. Let's go to Darren.
I think just try that new piece that you're looking at. So if you've never used Google Meet before in a live classroom setting, try it. Have that conversation with your students, set it up and say, look, we're going to give this a go and see what happens, and be upfront with them. And I think they really appreciate with that as well. So I would give it a go and see how it works with your students, because they do then start to really engage. And certainly we've seen from Ipswich School how they've engaged with it there.
I like that. Simon?
Make sure you buy your IT team lots of gifts.
Thank your IT teams. That's interesting.
That's about it.
Easily
bribed.
What if that isn't their love language? Acts of service, like what else?
I think you just have to not worry about it. And I think the thing that I've told, well, I've spoken to teachers, there's not a standard. I think that although we try and kind of encourage you to do certain things, there's not one template that works for every teacher and for every lesson. Just do what you feel comfortable with, and I think that, you know, it will. I mean, we're all new to this. It's we've only been doing it a couple of weeks, and I just think we're here to support you. And Google's got so many good products, and even their free support. You know, lots of resources online. Always Google things. Just if you're stuck, you can ask IT, and if they're not around, Google it.
Right. Don't be afraid to Google it. Nice one, Simon. And then finally, Anna.
I think from a teaching point of view, things I've learned recently is let pupils work. I find it really difficult to shut up and just let them get on with some work. So I think sort of making them work harder than we are is key, and leaving them some silence to get on with some work now and then is actually really difficult. But I think definitely something I should be doing more of.
Awesome. Well, let's check back in the live comments, see if we have any other questions or comments for our panel before we let them go. I know it's the end of your day.
One thing I could add, which might be quite helpful, is that you might have pupils that are missing lessons. So I think it was touched on about recording your meets. So, you know, recording meets, even doing screencastify videos. We've got pupils in China as well who are having problems with their internet, and so, you know, Classroom is our backup for those that can't access the Meet lesson. So it is good to record your lessons as well.
I'd also just like to add about send feedback back. So within all Google tools, there's a way of sending feedback to the team. And actually all the new features we're seeing in Meet have come back from feedback from users. So it actually goes to a person. It doesn't just go to a computer. It actually goes to somebody. They look at it and then they prioritize which features they want to develop. So like the tiled feature, that's a brand new thing that's only come out today. Yeah, that was sort of yesterday. It sort of appeared. So send the feedback and they can then they're developing it every single week.
They can read your minds, because I think of what I want in Google Meet and they release it.
Not true, but you'd be surprised. People are doing in-product feedback all over the world, and so we have to aggregate all of them and send them to product. And product really do want to make sure that these features are useful for you guys. So please, please, please continue with in-product feedback. That's actually the fastest way to get it up. And in some cases, if your feature is used, you get an email. So definitely keep going. All right, I'm looking back. I think those are all the questions. Some really cool ideas for IT teams from Carrie Shooter. Biscuits for your IT admins. Okay. I love that. So thank you guys so much for your time today. Continue to watch our Google for Education webinars on GFE webinars, bit.ly.gfe webinars. And then we'll continue to house them there. So if you miss any, GFE UK webinars, you might go to a different one. But we'll continue to house them all there. And then if you have any more questions as a senior leader or as an IT admin to get your school started, make sure you also sign up for our virtual staff rooms. So you'll get some support there, which will also be housed on the GFE UK webinars. And don't forget, the Teach from Home Hub is so important. All ideas are there. And then at the end of the day, if you have a question, make sure you Google it. All right. Thank you guys for a great afternoon. Wonderful webinar. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.